with site plan and everything else, and knowing you're going to get uses you don't.
I'd sort of have you tell us what you would like to do with it.
It's not so much we like to do, we like to be able to telegraph to a much wider brokerage community that are pursuing these leads that this is a potential for your site. Until we come back with a site plan, well, proposal for a site plan, we don't know. We honestly don't know. We know that it's zoned office right now, and that's all we know.
I think, Mr. Edmonds, you were next.
I just have a concern that we're on the edge, even suggesting, because this is a conditional rezoning. It's up to you to suggest the uses you would like to see. And then we would then go to that, from that point. And I have one other follow-up item on that. I was in the office talking to Mr. Savina today, and I'm concerned, 30 feet is wonderful. I think I applaud you for, suggesting that would be an open space green belt. I would hope that you'd go even a little bit further and actually plant, significant conifer trees along there, which would provide, noise inhibitions and things like that. Again, I can't ask you, but I'm just suggesting that would be.
And honestly, at the site plan stage, I can tell you anything in the world. I will be glad to give the planner. Again, we've got 25 different properties. Every single one of them, we've bermed, we've landscaped, we've gone way, way, way over and above. And instead of just saying I'm going to do it, I'd be glad to give whoever you'd like on the team just a list of properties that we've developed that's surrounded by residential. And I think you guys would be very, very pleased with the product.
Mr. Stratt.
Yeah, well, I think, again, I concur with the comments that were just made. I think that if there are other items that you missed, you have the opportunity of coming back to us, if it's reasonable, and add on to it. I don't see that being just cut and dry, that's all there's going to be. So that if there is something else, you can come back to us. But I think it really should come from you, since really it really should be your bag, your recommendation. You're coming in for the special land use approval. Not special land use, but for
conditional result.
Conditional. But
no, it's not conditional.
What I was going to ask is, you said something about special land use, that they could come back for site plan approval?
Whatever's done on this site is going to be required to go through
Whatever the use is.
Whatever the use is. So
okay.
The comment, I agree with you. It needs more than just a wall there. It needs landscaping, but that's a requirement that will be imposed at site plan. It'll be required that it be landscaped.
Did you hear that? I mean, that to me, the burden is on you. I really think
so we're here just to learn what we're learning here tonight about what your thinking is. We understand the burden's on us. I think that you have none of us have any legal choice otherwise to do what we got to do, and we will do it. We're taking heed to what we're learning here tonight.
Well, Mr. Chair, if I can hop in when
Yes.
you use that word legal. I am not a member of the board, but I will be reviewing any conditional rezoning agreement. And I think what you're missing is that these are planners, they're not marketers. You're looking at this from a marketing aspect, not a planning aspect. You have to come and you have to make plans for this parcel so they know what those plans are, so you can market it. We are not here to try and assist you in marketing the property. So you need to kind of do a role reversal here and realize that what goes into that agreement will be governing what's going to go on that site in the future.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be conditioned upon certain things that we have control over it if you want to offer it. So I don't know if that's helpful or not, but I think that's what I'm hearing from the board.
Is your hand still up?
Yeah, it's still up.
Mr. Suck.
I think Mr. Stern said it best. I think everyone here at the table wants the same thing. I think Mr. Hudson wants the same thing as Mr. Stern, wants the same thing as me, wants the same thing as Mr. Horton and Mr. Stratt. I think we're all talking the same thing, just in different languages. That's what I think. That's where I think we are. They're not asking for anything tonight. Tonight was just dialogue, and hopefully everyone at the table, when they come back with kind of a plan, as you indicated, a list of kind of a game plan, maybe game plan is the best way to put it, of how to proceed, that'll be clear for everybody, and it'll be clearly laid out what is intended and what is not gonna go there, and everyone will be kind of on the same page. The challenge here for, I think, the planning commission, just kind of keep in the back of your mind, is it is master planned for industrial. I mean, so what they're proposing, the rezoning to IB, is actually called for in the master plan. So at the end of the day, you know, we recommended approval of the conditional rezoning because that's what the master plan calls for. Mr. Horton has done a lot, he's an astute attorney, he knows planning law and zoning law, he knows, you know, he knows the dance, and he's coming before us with putting his best foot forward to come up with solutions that are going to benefit everybody. And I got the feeling when I met him, he doesn't want to pull a fast one, he doesn't want to be, he's not Snidely Whiplash who's showing up and is going to give us garbage and leave town. He's been around a long time, no offense, been around a long time and knows the game. And I think there's a solution here that's gonna win for everybody.
Well, I think you've gotten what you want. I would like to add to the comments that have been made. You guys are in the business. You need to tell us what markets are hot, what markets you're going after, what you think is your best shot at that site. We don't know, but it would certainly help fill in the equation that, okay, at some point you're going to propose we won't do this on the site, but we would like to get a sense of what are you looking at. Now again, there's no guarantee, but it would certainly give us more direction is going on what you're seeing in the market and what you think is viable for that property.
And I think the answer is A, you know, we're commercial developers mostly in the shopping center business. I will answer a question that was unanswered before. This is not a big box site. Can't fit. A Lowe's is 15 acres, Walmart's 20 acres, so you know, even Target's 12 acres. So this is not going to be a big box. But essentially, what I'm looking to do is to have the biggest phone book that I can of uses that are both acceptable to me and to you. Right now, my phone book is really, you know, in an office zoning, you know, my phone book is really limited and, you know, maybe 15 years. I want the biggest phone book that I can as far as uses because I can't really say that a use is hot. I will say that in general good business is on the rebound, and the more uses that I can call that are acceptable to you is gonna benefit us both to get the site back, you know.
I think we understand that. Let me ask you, would you put a shopping center on this site?
No, but it's not a good shopping center site. But one of the things we did look at is I guess the example is the bank on the corner, because I guess the bank is there on a non-conforming. Is the bank zoned office too, right? But it's obviously a bank. The bank to me is that's a great location for a bank. Can't put another one, but as something I'd say, I'd love to see 3 or 4 of those type of uses along the site. Again, if it does get developed that way, let's just say it's 3 or 4 out parcels. You know, you notice the buffer. The buffer's massive between that and the residential. Right now, there's a 2-story building, 65,000 feet. I mean, if it did get developed that way, we're in a far better position with the neighborhood, and I think a far better position, you know, for you guys for the longevity of the site. So I think that if I were to guess, and again, it might go completely a different direction, but I see kind of an out parcel development of the site as opposed to, I definitely don't see a retail shopping center. I guess.
Okay. Well, I was just throwing that out there because of your history.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, it
also,
won't be big, you know, Big Beaver in Rochester. By the way, that was I don't know if you guys remember, I mean, Big Beaver in Rochester was 44 old homes. I think it was 44 old homes on that site. And we actually did that together, but he was with my partner who passed away, Bob Sosnick, so we did that together. You know,
They tried to assemble it, an organization tried to assemble the corner directly east of there too, and it didn't work out quite as well.
We did 2 in Detroit, in Troy, and the other one was the Troy Office Center, and there were about 70 properties in there.
Yeah. But if I were to guess, that just to give you a vision, that's what I see. I mean, I see that bank branch and the way that parcel is, and some interconnection between the sites.
You know what? I think you've hit the word. I'd like to hear your vision for that property. You're starting to say it, but okay. that's that would be my ideal vision. But what are some other visions that you guys are churning in your minds? Because you've thought about this.
Yeah, oh, another,
And
just
we'd
to,
like to-
right, to throw
yeah.
out another one. There might be somebody to take the building, but to take the building in a non-office format. It'll never be office. But, you know, an internal, I don't know if you've ever seen the new data centers. You know, we've talked to data centers. Everything is internal. I mean, HVAC's inside the building.
Lights out, yeah.
Everything is inside. The only thing that's outside is they have a diesel, they usually have a generator outside, but everything else is inside. If that happens, that building could stay, and we could end up with a development like that somewhere in the middle of the site, not to have that huge parking lot. So before I bought the property, that's another thing that I
Okay.
contemplated. And again, I had somebody in there looking at it for that use, and we would need all the parking, but again, with the zoning, with the restrictions, at least we'd be able to talk to the out parcel uses. And at that point, actually, you'd have more than a bite at the apple, because you'd go back and say, do we have enough, you know, do you want to see all that parking there? Because if you do, we wouldn't be able to do the use. Or would you say, hey, you know, we don't want to see all that parking, what can you do? And then what can you do to enhance the way the site looks? Because it is kind of, I personally think the parking lot's kind of ugly right now.
Yeah.
So,
Mr. Schultz.
Just a side comment, I appreciate what you're asking for, and I find it fascinating. I just want to make sure that the developer understands that this is on television, and they may not want to play their hand any more than they have to, because you are in a competitive situation.
hey, the good news, I didn't give any specific names of people, you know, so. But I don't have anybody, so it's okay.
All right, anything else? Well, thank you. Hope you.
Thank you very much.
see you in a
Thank you.
couple weeks.
Appreciate your time.
5? Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Schultz.
Take 5.
I'll second that.
All right, 5 minutes.
Brett?
10, conditional rezoning. Conditional rezoning application file number CR006, proposed Troy Plaza development, west side of Crooks, north side of New King, 5500 New King, section 8, from PUD, planned unit development, to OM office mixed use and CV community business districts. Who's going to take this?
Mr. Carlisle's going to do this, but before he starts, I'd like to just say one thing, that the petitioner yesterday gave us 3 color renderings that are in your PDF. So I didn't add those. You didn't get them in the PDF that you downloaded at home. It's just basically additional information that's complementary to what you already had. There's a large map that shows zoning and existing and proposed zoning. There's a site plan that's got some color rendering on it. And then there's a color rendering looking at the potential development from Crooks. They'll come up on the screen eventually, but there's PDFs in your packet. I'm sorry, just wanted to clarify.
Thank you. As the chairman alluded to, tonight before us is a proposed conditional rezoning for the parcel bounded by Cooks Road, Corporate Drive, and New King Drive. The applicant is requesting a conditional rezoning from PUD to CM for the portion that fronts on Crooks Road, and OM, which for the portion that fronts on New King Road. The applicant tonight is just seeking input at this stage from the Planning Commission on their proposed conditional rezoning and attached site plan. For the CM portion of the property, again, which fronts on Cooks Road, the applicant is proposing a McDonald's, a mixed-use 2-story building, and a freestanding restaurant/retail building on the corner. For the OM portion of the site, the applicant is proposing a hotel. The application is incomplete currently, but we do offer a few comments tonight for the Planning Commission consideration. In regards to the rezoning, the site is surrounded by RC, OM, and in the proximity to CB and O zoning, so there is a mixture of different zoning districts within proximity as well adjacent to the site. The site is located in the Northfield area of the master plan. In addition to office as a primary use in this area also does allow or call for other uses primarily relating to support the work and activities in the area, and this includes supporting commercial uses. So we find that due to the office market, a lack of commercial and dining amenities in the surrounding area, the proximity to I-75, as well as a renewed focus in the master plan and zoning ordinance to provide a mix of uses, especially for those supporting the adjacent area, that the proposed use types proposed by the applicant really are appropriate for the site. That being said, we do have some specific site planning issues that we want to raise. I don't think it's appropriate at this point to go into a full detail about the site plan, but I want to just give some higher level comments in regards to the site plan and have the Planning Commission offer insight into the applicant. We do want to note that this is a very difficult site to develop, primarily due to its location on 3 streets as well as issues of curb cuts and the like. We do support like I said, the use types proposed by the applicant, especially the hotel and multi-story hotel, as well as the at least two-story minimum retail mixed-use building in the center of the site located there. However, this is a large site, and it can provide for greater integration than what the applicant is currently proposing. We find that due to the building placements as well as the heavy automobile dependentness of the site, this really is 4 separate building pads with surrounding parking on most sides of the building. So we do find that with smaller site plan change to the site, there can be a better integration moving forward. We really do find that there's really 2 significant issues driving the site plan layout. And the first is the McDonald's. Due to requirements of the McDonald's Corporation, there are certain site plan aspects that need to be met, specifically the drive-through location and drive-through use. Due to the location of the McDonald's on the site and in the northeast corner, directly adjacent to the entrance off Cooks Road, it really does drive the remaining portions of this site. Pardon the pun about the drive. Taken on its face, the McDonald's, if it was an isolated parcel on its own, the site plan, we don't have any significant issues with at this point. But in relation to the rest of the site and realizing that it's not an isolated parcel, it's part of a larger development for this parcel, we just find the applicant should find other ways to integrate the McDonald's site better integrated with the rest of the site to provide more cohesiveness. The second issue driving the layout of the site plan is the second drive-through use for the retail building. Specifically, we note that the stacking area really creates an awkward site. The stacking area is located in the middle, essentially, of that parking area. It creates some awkward issues behind the building for parking. In addition, the stacking area is deficient by 2 spaces, so the applicant would be required to add 2 additional stacking spaces, which would create even more awkwardness for that location, for the drive-through use. So we find that by eliminating that second drive-through, or that drive-through for the mixed-use building, more integration and cohesiveness can take place. And specifically, we would ask the applicant to consider eliminating the drive-through, any parking, as well as any drive aisles between the mixed-use commercial building there and the freestanding retail / restaurant building just to the south. In addition, we hope that the applicant would consider moving the building up closer to Crooks Road, and or moving the building closer into that corner location of Crooks and Corporate Drive. There is a water feature located in the proposed water feature located in the corner. That's for stormwater detention, if you can point that out. That's for stormwater detention. We would ask the applicant to, if they do that, they'd actually have to relocate that, but they can do that in a more naturalized fashion. Currently, as proposed, it's a pretty formal water feature, and they can do more with stormwater management in terms of making it more naturalized in a different location on the site. So in summary, we asked the applicant to consider eliminating the drive-through in between the 2 buildings, connecting the mixed-use building and the freestanding building with some sort of pedestrian connection or plaza to connect the 2 buildings, moving it closer to Crooks Road or Corporate Drive, and moving the water feature to another location on the site and making it a more natural site feature. We have, in addition, listed a number of other smaller, minor site plan amendments listed in the application, but I don't know if we need to go in detail of that at this point. But overall, we do find that the proposed development and the proposed use types, and specifically not the site plan, but the use types proposed by the applicant, is encouraged. However, we do find that with smaller site plan changes and minor site plan changes, we think that's going to be a more cohesive and betterly developed site.
This is the rendering I was referring to earlier. Got the restaurant, retail in the corner here, water features right here. Retail on the first floor, office above, and then to the north, McDonald's.
The hotel over there.
Just 1 second. Any questions or comments for Mr. Carlisle and Mr. Sapana? I have a question for either one or both of you. The drive off of Corporate, the location of the drive off of Corporate, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, it's very close to New King. And, I mean, is there anything that would preclude that drive being shifted closer to Crooks?
It would, other than the standards of the proximity of the curb access to New King Drive, no. But we can work with the applicant to either remove that drive and or move it closer to the middle of the site. That also will depend, like I said, if the applicant was able to move that freestanding retail building closer to Crooks Road, it can allow for that drive aisle, that curb access to be closer to Crooks Road as well. I think that the location chosen was driven in part because of the location of that freestanding building.
Okay. Mr. Schultz?
You mentioned you would like to see the multi-use building, the center building, moved closer to Crooks. Is that correct?
We'd like them to consider moving either closer to Crooks, moving it farther south, and closer to the corner as well, to create a street presence on Crooks Road in that location.
My first reaction is, because of the limited access they have on Crooks, I think you're going to have some kind of maneuvering lane in front of that building to get any kind of traffic flow, and I don't know how much closer they're going to be able to get it and still be able to get a 24-foot road through there. That's my concern. I mean, I know we're trying to get everything up close to the road, but there are some times that you've got to have vehicles being able to get between the building and the major thoroughfare. And Crooks right there is a pretty major thoroughfare.
Well, that might be true, but we do ask the applicant to consider if they were able to move the building closer, they could move the drive aisle behind the building or to the side of the building and better orient the. There would not necessarily be a necessity to have a drive aisle between the building and Crooks Road. And we find that the reason why they need that drive aisle between the building and Crooks Road really is to accommodate that drive-through.
Yeah.
So eliminate the drive-through, the potential need for that drive aisle might not be there.
Maybe said differently too, make the Crook side more the pedestrian side, keep the auto traffic on the west side. Anything else? Petitioner like to step to the microphone. Are you signed in, sir?
Yes, I did, thank you. I'm Mike Gordon from the architectural firm Moisey Gordon Associates, and I just want to thank the planning department, especially Brent and Dick Carlisle, for their input. I've made a career out of this site. We've been before you for, this is our 7th year. The economy dictates a lot of the decisions we've made on this site. We've changed the plan considerably, and I think we've really worked well together to try to accommodate a lot of the concerns and issues that have come up. The site is a great mixed use. It addresses the microenvironment of the area and brings some needed amenities to that office service area, which because of that zoning has extremely limited functions that can be other than office. We really wanted to work into the walkable community aspect and create a microcosm on the site so that there's interdigitation between. Based on your strict code enforcement of the parking lot, we've already eliminated well over 100 spaces from the site because we've done shared parking, we've done off-peak parking, and we've looked at the synergy of people coming and going on the site and from the different time uses. The suggestion, if you look at the site, we have a more than 10-foot drop across the property. Currently, in the southeast corner, that is the low part of the site, the infrastructure for the retention is already there. The retention pond is already there. To make the site work from an engineering standpoint, everything drains to the southeast corner. The only way to solve this would be less than desirable by putting everything underground, which is not bio-friendly. The water feature, he mistakenly pointed at the plaza. The white area is actually the outdoor dining for the restaurant. In front of it, we created a multi-tiered, one would be the retention area, and there would be a permanent water feature so that unlike the Grand Sakwa property, which is a dry pit right now, there would always be water at that location. The retention area would drain and fill as needed. So we think that it really is a very viable option. Where that drive comes into the south, because that is a one-way boulevard street, we took it out because there was concerns about the stacking lane back to the intersection because of the number of cars coming on and off the site. And it does interfere because it's 2 right turns. You can't make a left turn out of there. So it's a right turn and a right turn because of the boulevard condition. As far as moving the property structures closer to Crooks Road, in a previous meeting, we talked about putting 4 parking spaces in front and moving the building further away from the road at their suggestion in order to buffer the outside dining from the actual traffic of the road. So the building actually was pushed back 12 additional feet based on suggestions coming from the planning department. The McDonald's location was dictated, it used to be further down the site to the south. They suggested moving it all the way to the north as a better condition for the drive-in and drive-out so that people could address the McDonald's. So we had originally showed it as the middle building in the structure. As far as eliminating the other drive-through, we could rent 7 drive-throughs on this property right now. The way the economy is dictating things, we all want to live in a walkable community. We can rent that drive-through. We've already had it. And if we could divide the building up into 7 drive-throughs, we could. We originally had shown 3 drive-throughs. We've downsized to 2. Both of those are rented. As far as, because it's conditional zoning, because we can also do rezoning to this, and we can do a variance, the number of spaces from community to community change, and actually in your own ordinance, in some sections it shows 9 stacking, some it's 10. So as far as being 2 short or maybe 1 short, we would probably come for a variance because the end user, I can't name yet, says we only need 4 or 5 because of the type of use we are. We think the buildings are well positioned. We think the site is integrated. The reason that drive is pushed to the west is because of the distribution of parking. If we put the drive too far to the east, the number of spaces required for the 8 to 10,000 square feet of office, the retail, the restaurant, you would force more people walking across a busier drive. So isolating the hotel to the back. The hotel site in that zoning, the hotel is very preliminary. They had talked about 4 trash enclosures right now, obviously, we only show 3. We did integrate 2 of them together. And with the final design of the hotel may actually show the trash dumpsters within the footprint of the hotel. So that's so preliminary right now to be determined. There was some concern about creating multiple dining spaces. Until we lease the building, we don't know, and there is some question in their report saying, consolidated, this is not a food court, we're not trying to create a food court, we think that's kind of what would, and the policing of different restaurants, and if you've got a liquor license and a non-liquor license, there are certain issues where you cannot consolidate all the food into one area. There's lots of reasons you don't want to do that. The office building, that 10,000 square feet is a wonderful incubator space, small offices, maybe some doctor's office, private attorneys, accountants. Again, another wonderful amenity for the people in the area. We're hoping for a pickup drop-off dry cleaner, we've already discussed with one of those. It's a great opportunity to get some real needed services for the area. One of the Coney Island chains has also approached us, but a very preliminary until we get past the space. It's a lot of conversation, and there's a national restaurant chain that is the reason we upped the size of that building to 5,000 square feet, or 6,000 square feet, because that's the numbers they require. So there's a lot of activity. I think it'll be a real dynamic experience at the corner, keeping the buildings architecturally similar, yet giving it an interesting, variegated streetscape, and the outside dining and the activity along the road. I think we've placed it well for the site and the constraints and the way we have to deal with the retention. And of course, we'll go back and discuss further, trying to tweak some of these issues and making it more palatable. But we've worked, we've had many meetings with your planning staff there with Carlisle. Any questions, we'll be happy to answer. I have the engineers here and representatives from UConn.
Questions for the petitioner?
I've talked too much tonight. So Mr. Gordon, the condition would be the site, where are you?
Right.
The condition would be the site plan, basically,
Yeah.
the conditional rezoning.
Schultz?
I have a question.
Hit us.
Why rezoning instead of just coming back and saying, this is our new PUD?
Would you like to answer that, or?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. We came back, they felt that because in the rezoning, the drive-throughs are allowed under special condition, that this was giving us a better flexibility, and the zoning allowed us to put, right now, the buildings are pushed closer than in the PUD's requirement for setbacks. So we did, because like the building to the south especially is right up to the sidewalk. Well, based on grade, we can't get that close to the line on the stairs of it. But it gave us greater flexibility to put in uses and to make this site plan. And we went around and around, and we came back and said, and by the suggestion of the planning department, we said, okay, we'll come back with the rezoning because it seemed to give us better flexibility.
I didn't think anything was more flexible than a PUD.
I would say that the reason is, you know, again, more flexibility. It's what the petitioner wanted, was flexibility. The PUD as approved was significantly higher in terms of intensity, and this is kind of a scale down. So, you know, there was some question whether, you know, is the planning commission and city council, is there going to be a comfort level with kind of scaling it down and still being a PUD? And this seemed to be kind of the easiest approach for the applicant. So that was why that decision was made.
Question.
Mr. Schultz?
If a conditional rezoning were done and the center building on Crooks still has a drive-through and the tenant says they don't need 9 stacking spaces, they only need 4. As part of the conditional rezoning, can that drive-through go away if that named tenant vacates that space?
It would require an amendment to the conditionally approved site plan. And whether that's a minor amendment or a major amendment.
Or if the amendment included that verbiage before it was approved,
Correct.
it wouldn't require anything. It would just be if that tenant goes away, that drive-through goes away, because it is not compliant with zoning ordinance.
What they would probably want to do in the conditional rezoning agreement is kind of stipulate what happens with those drive-throughs in the event that exactly, they change tenants, or maybe it's discontinued for 2 years, but then there's another lease picked up, what happens? That would probably need to be stipulated in the agreement. Good question.
That would be very hard to monitor, would it not? Would you change tenants? I mean, the city doesn't know so much that.
It would be, administratively, it would be a bit of a headache, yes.
Mr. Gordon, I believe you mentioned that as far as stormwater retention, that there is no buried stormwater retention?
Well, there's going to have to be because of the amount.
There's a huge amount, according to your
Well,
engineering drawings.
And we talked about it in the future for, well, depending on what develops in the hotel, we've discussed doing a green roof up there. In previous iterations, we had land banks and parking, which we haven't even approached. And in the first phase, everything from that drive back doesn't get built. So the initial retention is a much different concern. And until there is a lease for the back property or a sale, and in that zoning, it could also go into an office building.
Looking at the layout, how you've kind of run the property with the buildings and landscaping, have you considered maybe making the retention more of a feature, an open pond down the center of that parking lot and start to break down these huge islands of asphalt?
Well, the challenge of that is that in order to make it more walkable, in order to create the area that would recurve, down to sort of the border between the two properties, you'd line up the wall. So we looked at that in order to get, because the parking lots can all slope down so people can walk and interdigitate between the buildings. The more you flatten out the center of the site, because literally we have a 12-foot grade change across the property. So you want to keep that as gentle as possible to keep those sidewalks and not have stairs or ramps or walls. So we did look at a portion of that.
It's a fairly nice sized parcel. I'm sure you looked at some cut and fill operations.
No, cut and fill is fine,
balance it out a little bit.
but do you want to walk behind those buildings and see a 10-foot or 8-foot wall to create a pond in the center of the site?
No.
No, so that would be the.
I guess, okay, I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
First it was 10-foot fall, now it's a 12-foot fall, now it's an 8 or
Well,
9-foot wall. I mean,
We
guess I'm
never
not
came
sure.
with final engineering, we just sort of looked at the site and said that was an option that we discussed.
All right. Mr. Stratt.
Yeah, are you planning on doing this in phases?
Yes. But the first phase is guaranteed to be the McDonald's site and these 2-story retail, and then the pad site for the restaurant pending a sale. Basically, everything forward has to get built in order for the site to work.
Worries me is what we ended up over on Big Beaver Char.
Yeah.
This type of situation. Because I don't know how viable a hotel is going to be at that location, in my opinion. You're the marketing person. But I know that there's another hotel that's gone under, I guess. They've had a hard time because they're not right off I-75. Seems like I-75 is the real crutch. This being way back in the corner there, I don't know. But you're the marketing person, so I don't know. But that's what worries me, is that being
The property is
unfinished.
referring to the old hotel to the east.
Pardon me?
The hotel to the east.
Yeah.
Yeah. The archaic property, challenging room sizes and design, my client actually went and shopped it to purchase it, and there is a challenge because it would have to stay closed for a year in order to change flags because of the union contracts. So there's a lot of, and it's a huge piece of property, it's much more land, there's a lot of land associated.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I'm not a marketer either. All I can tell you is anecdotally, we've had hotel representatives kicking the tires on Troy for, some smaller, 4-story type hotels. We've had a number of people inquire about hotels. So that's another market that seems, again, not a marketer, not an economist,
Yeah.
seems to be coming around based purely on anecdotal
There's
discussion.
quite a few of them right on Stevenson Highway there. They're all up and down there. And one going up right now, as a matter of fact, that we approved right there, so.
Well, hopefully,
Again, they're right off I-75.
hopefully the
I
article
don't know.
cranes today with the office part will be a huge improvement, because right now there's this emptiness to the west. So,
Yeah. Well, I do know that the vacancy rate in offices, the highest percentage is right there.
But you saw the article today.
I was just wondering if there'd been any consideration of what we're still looking for in Troy, a live-work type of situation in that two-story?
Well, if you, let's go back 3 iterations ago, when we had the hotel went across the parking deck to a 3-story structure, and those were scheduled to either swing between hotel, like log stay units or condominiums. But that market, unfortunately, we don't feel is there.
Thank you.
That was a little one. I have looked around.
The planner's comments that you heard or received copies of, would you consider, looking at some of those more seriously as far as,
Yeah.
instead of making these like 3 separate building paths, start to bring some continuity to that front elevation along Crooks?
Well, we think with landscaping and with a lot of what we're doing, we can achieve that. And we'll look at eliminating some of the parking along the front and making broader green space in your connecting. Of course, the challenge is because of the nature of the businesses, single-sided loading of these buildings makes it challenging, because with 16,000 square feet of office, and there is a minimum required parking required. And as much as we would like to think people will walk a distance, the human nature is we want to park right in front of our door. So it is a balancing act between marketing these buildings, and you get people, like the restaurant to the south, 2 sides of it have no parking, which most restaurateurs find that challenging, and the distance that people will walk to a restaurant out of.
Well, you've seen, Granite City, you've seen, what's the
Ocean
one-
Park has a lot of parking in front and back on side.
They handle it with valet.
Right. And they've pushed, and that building sits about from the corner about as far as this building does. Because they have that big turnaround drive in front of it facing Big Beaver. We
Well,
studied all of those.
Yeah, I think, what I got from reading through the comments was that this is very automotive intense. And we'd like to see, scale brought to this, pedestrian walkways and such. Any other comments, Mr. Cranny?
Just bouncing off of Ben's comment about intuitive driving paths, that along the north side where you've got the angled parking and one way, and then the hotel's got all the parallel parking, or perpendicular parking and 2-way, I could see people coming into the hotel at night saying, oh, let's go to McDonald's, just drive through, and they go, oh my God, where are we? I don't know, it's just people are coming at us with headlights. I'm just saying, it's just that little point in the middle where that point of decision hits. I mean, if you put one sign, do not enter, it just, I don't have a solution for you.
I'll defer to McDonald's.
Good evening, I'm Tom Gergich, I'm the area real estate manager for McDonald's. And, one thing that I can tell you is we've developed worldwide over 40,000 McDonald's restaurants. So we like to think that we've gotten kind of good at it at this stage of the game. We had the same concern. We think, do not enter signs at that point will help, and, they'll be reflective, and, maybe we can even consider some other type of, directional striping or markings or something to direct people around there. But, we really don't see that back entrance off of New King as being the main entrance to the site or to our restaurant. It's going to come off of Crooks. That's where the traffic is. And, we've heard and appreciate the comments about creating a walking environment. And I wanted to share something with you real quick. As you all know, you approved and we built a new restaurant in Troy here not too long ago. The drive-through percentage at that restaurant is in excess of 74%. So as much as we'd all like to see everybody walking, our customers are telling us emphatically that they don't want to walk. They want to come through a drive-through. So that's why we've designed the site, that's why we do the angled parking in part, is to help minimize the width requirement, the frontage that we would need on Crooks, and to help the developer, you know, have more developable space for other uses in there. And quite frankly, our customers are used to it and they like it, and it works pretty well for both the customers and our business. So, you know, those are just some items. You know, again, we really do look at each and every site and try to design it so that it works best for the customers, and the customers, almost 75% of them want to use that drive-through windows.
And that's your market.
It sure is.
And this location is a lot different than the Rochester Big Beaver location. I mean, you've got a lot of people working in this area. And, you know, walk for lunch or whatever. So it's not an apples to oranges, but again, that's your market, is get people in and out as quickly as they can through their automobile.
And I promise you, when they want to walk, we'll pull the building right up to the sidewalk and the front door will be right there. You know, we want to serve them, so.
I believe, aren't bike racks required too?
Yeah.
This still has to go through a full site plan review. We didn't go into the detail about submittal requirements, etc.
Yeah, with Mr. Stratton.
Well, yeah, I really think the outdoor patio area is really a crucial thing. I don't see it, and we'd like to see it off of Crooks Road so that people see it if at all possible. That would be a big thing as far as I'm concerned. You know, we have several of our restaurants have outdoor facilities, as I think you mentioned. And I think that it's really crucial. Even Starbucks has it, and they use it a lot. So I would encourage you to consider that.
We would consider that, and as the final site plan gets developed, we'll take a look at trying to.
All right.
I guess what I was kind of looking for was kind of a head nod in terms of like 35,000 feet down, the rezoning. Is that, does the planning commission feel like this is an appropriate rezoning? Just big picture? Getting thumbs up and head nods? I think that's what the first thing they were looking for was, do we get head nods? And then we can, you know, conceptually, you know, there are some things to iron out, but conceptually, you know, we're okay with the uses and some of the things, big picture that we talked about this evening.
The other thing, conceptually, I'd like to go along with what the chairman was just saying, is that I think that if you use some bioswales, or are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
You know, as well as some lakes, as well as some possibilities of having that going down to your stream down there.
In a previous design, we had a gray water system. Preliminary design for the site.
Because, like you said, natural flow is to that corner. So it'd be a natural thing to do, especially with all the parking you've got there. You know, you could have surface drainage on a lot of that. And certainly eliminate an awful lot of underground that's going to be required. But it takes a little more creativity than.
Well, we've cut, you know, the spaces back there as a kind of, you know, shorter spaces with the overlap into the green space, you know, so we've done in where we can currently to do that. And we do have 21% green space where 20 is required. And we're willing to even land bank. We haven't even thought about land banking parking yet, which we did in previous designs. We land banked 30, 40 spaces to help with that, saying as it develops, you know, we need the additional spaces. So.
You know, because they could really be features,
Okay.
like you're trying to do with that corner. And you can make them really, really neat.
I think, and then really the focal point of the corner, I think it will, you know, with the tables and chairs at the upper level and the permanent small fountain area, and then the swale in front of it, I think we're trying to get an amenity for both Troy and the site.
Yeah.
When you come off the expressway, there is a gate. It is quite a gateway.
Mr. Edmonds.
I agree with Mr. Stratt. I think you could even reduce the volume of stormwater that's going to go down to that low spot when you do put the bioswales in your parking lot. That's a use of that stormwater.
Mr. Schultz.
Two things. One, the restaurant to the south, looking at your preliminary drawing here, If that restaurant's gonna have alcohol, that outdoor dining has to be attached to the building. You can't have a walkway.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll put the walkway, I think.
Right.
Check with the walkway.
The railing would have to be so that you enter the outdoor dining only from the restaurant.
Correct.
And you made a comment about your pond versus the Grand Saco pond. And just for clarification, the Grand Saco pond has to be a dry pond. The FAA requires it because of the airport location.
Any other comments?
Planes fall in, is that ground?
I think I'd rather have water laying, I don't know. That would be crazy.
It's water birds they're trying to get rid of.
Oh, okay.
Ducks and geese.
Ducks and geese, they don't want them by the airport.
Guys.
Remember the miracle on the Hudson?
Mr. Shipper?
Well, anyway, I appreciate everything that's been going on here tonight. I think that's an excellent location for McDonald's. With all of the office space around there, the medical space and patients coming in and out, I think they'll do very well over there. Even the restaurant, if they get the right restaurant over there, I think it's gonna be a knockout. So I like what I see there. I think that would fit very nicely in that area. There's always things that they can do to improve it. And the more improvements they make, the bigger draw that it's going to have with the general public. I'm glad to see a project of this nature going on that piece of land.
I noticed the building is, I won't say half down yet, the existing building. Is that going to proceed to come all the way down here soon?
I'm not sure what the schedule is on that, but it's.
Yes,
All right, well, have you heard
Yeah.
what you were looking for tonight?
Thank you.
Will we see you back in another 7 years?
No, we were like continuously for 7 years.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 11, Planning Commission bylaws.
Yeah, this is really quick. So we rescheduled the meeting times for 7 rather than 7:30. The bylaws clearly say that the meetings have to be held at 7:30. So we just need to amend the bylaws.
I move that we amend the bylaws to say that meetings start at 7 PM.
Or,
Right. Roll call.
Mr. Shepke?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Stratt?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Edmonds?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krebs?
Yes.
We'll make the amendments and we'll email a copy of the bylaws to everybody so everyone has a,
Do they have to be
Updated.
approved by anyone other than us?
no.
Right. We approved some time ago, a couple of years ago, I thought, at McDonald's at 15 in Livernois.
Yes.
What happened to that?
There's, I believe, some difficulty negotiating a lease agreement between the two parties.
We met with the property owner a couple months ago. It more likely not it's gonna happen. It's not gonna happen there.
Item 12, public comment in the audience. We're going to move into Planning Commission comments, and we will start with Mr. Shepke tonight.
No other comments other than what I've said. I think it's exciting to see the development going in and people willing to put their money in Troy. I know the home sales are, really, homes are selling very well in Troy, and I'm sure that in the near future, commercial business is going to be on the uptick. So it's an exciting place to live and work, and I think there's going to be a lot of desire for people to move to Troy, and I'm excited about that.
Thank you. Mr. Schultz?
No comment.
Brent? Mr. Stratt? We're on a roll.
No.
Mr. Edmonds? I have two comments. Number one, I would like to officially excuse Phil Sanzica from the meeting tonight. Do we need something to vote? No?
No, we don't do excusing motions anymore.
I'd also like to applaud Mr. Carlisle. I think many of the observations you've made on these site plans we're seeing are valid planning observations, and I hope that the petitioners start to listen a little closer. I got the sense that this last petitioner maybe was a little pushback. You know, he felt that his plan was where it needed to be. And I don't know when they come into the office if it's scheduled so that you both meet with the potential petitioners, and I don't know how much information they give you before the meeting, or if they come in kind of cold and say, hey, this is what we want to do, what do you think? It's a little tough to necessarily think through all the potential issues or solutions. So anyways, I want to applaud you. I think you've done a nice job.
Appreciate it. You know, to be honest, there is always a little bit of give and take. We struggle with how much we can push back because we want development. We recognize these are troubled sites, but we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't showcase some of the site planning issues that are involved. So I appreciate your sentiment, and Brett and I kind of play good cop, bad cop a lot in a lot of respects. So we work as a team in this. So Brett has a lot of influence on our memos too. So I want to compliment him too.
Well, yeah, and I think you've heard from this group that we really do want to raise the bar with development. I mean, yes, compromise is the way of the world, but certainly we want to start off as high as we can. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to leave you out of that tag team duo that you're doing a very, very good job also.
Yeah, and just to, you know, the memos that are the reports that are created by Carlisle Workman are not done in a vacuum. They get input from all of the city departments, including planning. I'm very involved in the memo writing, and we have a good relationship.
Thank you. You have any comments?
No. Another excellent job by the chairman.
Okay. Mr. Carlisle, do you have any?
No comments. I really appreciate the comments. The compliment. I really do. Thank you.
One other thing, Mr. Chairman, if I may tack on to what you said, I think I like the shortness that you present. When you present everything as various things, I think it's very nice. I think it's a real improvement.
Thanks.
I like that.
I can talk longer.
No, longer, no.
Kathy, do you have anything?
I don't think.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.